You are listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 119. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where I show you how life with less alcohol is more fun than you think. I work with high achievers who struggle to drink a glass of wine without it turning into 2 bottles. I'm the one they call when they want to take it or leave it. So if you want to change your relationship with alcohol that doesn't involve counting days sober, you're in the right place. Well, hello everybody. How are you doing? I hope you are well. I am recording this close to a balcony that overlooks the ocean. Yes, I have escaped the horrible winter of Northern Europe, and I am currently in the south of Gran Canaria, which is beautiful. If you haven't been, I definitely recommend you come. It's really, really fun here, and definitely a lot warmer than the normal temperatures I'm used to at this time of year. So today I am kicking off the start of a 3-part series. So over the next 3 episodes, what I'm doing is I'm taking a topic and I'm breaking it into its 3 constituent parts, and I'm going to then cover each of these pieces on its own. Each will have its own episode. And the topic is dealing and responding to cravings or urges. I use those 2 terms interchangeably. Now, common wisdom, and by that I mean what people not in the know will tell you and what you read about all over the place on message boards, in Facebook groups, in newspaper articles and so on and so forth. Common wisdom suggests there are 3 responses we should have in our armory when faced with a craving. And these are to resist it, to avoid it, or to distract yourself from it. Now, I'm going to take each of these and dig into them in each of these episodes to explain why these do not work and why you might think that they work and what outcome you can create for yourself instead. All right, today we are going to start with resisting. First, I want to talk about how resisting an urge shows up. It's basically, we're using fighting language here, tough language. We're going into battle. We're being strong guys, a bit like Reacher. Have you read the Reacher books? I don't read the books. We listen to the audio books on long drives. The Reacher books by Lee Child, fantastic. Anyhow, yeah, so resistance shows up like we're the tough guys. Right? The urge is coming. Just going to fight my way through it. Or I'm really going to go into battle with the cravings tonight. I am ready. I am armed. Perhaps you say, if I can just resist a drink from 6 till 8, I'll be fine after that. It's so exhausting to resist. I just have to stay strong. And when we say things like that, especially if you're in a Facebook group, there are many encouraging responses from other people too, right? Egging you on. Yeah, you can do it. You can fight it. Be tough. You'll be all right. All you know how to do is to power your way through. Now, at first glance, this is inspiring and helpful language. It's all about putting your best foot forward, sticking to your guns, sticking to your goals. And it can really seem that way too, right? It can feel good, the idea at least, of putting on your big girl pants and fighting for yourself against the urge. Then if you are successful, and I personally had many, many months of success with this approach, that can exalt you to continue the battle, right? Going to continue. But you were waiting for that, right? I bet there's usually a but. This resisting approach rarely works over the long run, at least in a way that feels calm and peaceful and easy. And that can feel very confusing, because we're told it's good to set goals. We're told it's good to motivate ourselves forward, to stick to our guns. So why don't we feel better when we're doing this? And that's what we're talking about today. So let's step back for a second and talk about our desire to drink, because desire lies at the heart of it. So many of us think that the desire to drink is caused by something being wrong with us. Perhaps it's caused by us being insatiable. But that is not the case at all, at all. That was a dramatic pause to make the point, because I really want you to hear me on this. It's only that you've learned to desire something that your brain thinks is very important, because alcohol gives your brain a super reward. It's like, oh my gosh, this is very imperative to our survival. We need to get more of this. So what you're basically telling yourself is to get more of the alcohol immediately. This is very important, Anna. Without this, you will die. Now, you and I know that alcohol is not important to us. It's not even important to our survival. Humans survived long before we learned about fermentation. But the response in your brain is the piece that's connected to evolution, the massive explosion of pleasure. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that seeking pleasure is a key way we're wired. So whether it's pleasure from spending time with friends or drinking a glass of wine, the brain doesn't really distinguish in terms of what you're doing. It's just interested in the reaction. And the reaction from wine and beer and spirits is so huge that the brain has a blunt formula that basically suggests huge pleasure equals important, and therefore we need to continue seeking that out immediately, which means you're then searching for the nearest bar. So now if you can understand that's what's going on with your brain, you don't have to beat yourself up about it. You don't have to be upset about it. You just have to unwind it. So when you have that triggering thought, which might be something as simple as it's time to drink, where's the wine? Or I need to go and get the wine, whatever it is that you think, then you're going to feel that desire. You're going to feel that craving. That's when, if you resist, you're going to feel the battle lines being drawn, right? When you're trying to not drink when you want to, you're pushing back against your desire. This is you resisting the urge. What happens is you try to fight against it, and then you feel deprived. You get upset about this, you feel bad, and eventually you give in. This may happen in the space of an evening, over a week, a month, or even after several months or a year. I remember doing this in 2017, the year when I thought I was serious about changing my drinking, which was actually really just the foothills. That time wasn't successful, but the one after was. But in 2017, I managed to resist my way through from January till May, until something bad happened. I'd had enough, and guess what? I reached for the gin. It was the gin, not the Chablis at that time. You may remember me talking about that incident when I read out a diary entry a few episodes ago. Okay, so why doesn't resistance work when actually on paper it really ought to? Because we have limited amount of willpower. We have that limited ability to be able to sustain resistance for a period of time. You know, it's just like as though in the morning we've set up our defenses, we put our troops into position, they're all ready to go. But the moment 6 p.m. or whenever it is for you, whenever that moment clicks around, the troops just give up and go home to their dinner, right? We give up resisting and we have the drink. So why doesn't resistance work in the long term? Well, firstly, because it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. Think about it. You've had a full day, whether that's at work in the office or whether you've been at work at home. You'll have made hundreds of decisions, maybe answered hundreds of emails and solved hundreds of problems. If it's been a long day, then you're going to need to then come home. You're going to need to cook dinner. Perhaps you've got to sort the kids out. You've got to get them to bed. And after all that, then you need to battle the urge to have a drink. Right? I've done all that and there's still more to go. I've got to battle the urge to drink the drink that I've been looking forward to, the drink that shows I'm off the clock, the drink that shows I don't have to think about anyone but myself for a change. Right? Just think about it. You're setting yourself up to enter the battle when you are at your weakest ebb, when your ability to resist the urge is going to be very low. So that's the first thing. It's exhausting. Secondly, I want you to think about battles. In any battle, what is there? Well, there are going to be at least two opposing parties, and there's going to be a victor and a loser. And in this case, when you're battling a craving, you're battling you against you. You're actually fighting yourself. So you're going to lose 100% of the time. Because even if you succeed at being strong and not having the drink, right? Let's say you achieve that goal. The part of you that was feeling deflated, frustrated, needy, stressed, right? The part of you that wanted the drink, they're going to feel they're going to lose. That's why we end up feeling so deprived. Right? And that explains why even if you succeed and resist the drink, you may feel a bit meh, as the youngsters would say, a bit as though you're actually losing out still. And you also know that the next time you go into battle, you may not be as lucky. Yes, we think about this in terms of luck. The piece of you that wants the drink, perhaps next time that will be the victorious bit of you, which means that you're then going to lose, right? Because you're going to be going against your goal to drink less. So we lose on one hand and we lose on the other. And this is why we can feel very wobbly. When we resist cravings, we reinforce two things. Firstly, that we really do want the drink, even though we said we won't. And secondly, that we're not strong enough. We never have been strong enough. And because we as humans have a negative confirmation bias, we are never going to be strong enough. Third, there's another common way that resistance shows up. Very common. Take note if this is you. This is with weekday, weekend drinking, right? It's where you're good all week, where you can resist all week, and then boom, the weekend you're drinking your head off. And people ask me why. Well, it's our old friend resistance at play. You're able to resist all week because you know the weekend is coming, right? So when troops can hold off the enemy, if they know that reserve troops, fresh troops are just around the corner, it gives us more impetus. And you will have this set up as an excuse, as a pattern where it's acceptable to drink on a Saturday or on a Friday night, right? That's what you are used to. That's what you're expecting. And that gives you the ability to hold off Monday through Thursday. But when you do this, what you're not doing is building your skill set of managing the urges during the week. Now, as I've said many, many times, drinking for so many people is simply a habit response. It's something that we learn to do, just like we learn to clean our teeth twice a day. It's an unconscious behavior. And now it is possible because of this, that if you resist long enough, you can remove the habit, right? That you can actually get to the point where you are not reaching for the drink because you have literally got out of the habit of taking the action. Right? When we're just working on the action line, all we're doing is focusing on the not drinking. But the problem with this kind of blunt, forced approach with willpower and resistance is that you have not included the factor of your desire for the alcohol into the extinction process. So you may not take the action of drinking, but often you're still going to have huge desire for it. This is why you might meet people who don't drink, but who still have incredible level of desire or want for it and are still actively resisting every day. What's happening in these cases is that even though you may not be doing the drinking, you still want to be doing the drinking. And it's kind of like you're looking over your shoulder, waiting for the moment when your defenses will be down and you'll drink. Now you might say, okay, that's as may be, Anna, but I'm still happier if I'm not actually drinking alcohol, even if I still want it. Even if I know the desire is there, but I can conquer that by being strong. And if that's you, then that's great. If that works for you, brilliant. But I didn't want that. I didn't want to be permanently feeling like I was missing out or I was going to have to kind of watch myself to make sure I didn't slip. I didn't want to be on my guard and worried that I couldn't trust myself around the wine. And this is why I think it's so essential that instead of trying to resist and eliminate alcohol from your life, we don't even focus on that being the most important piece. And instead we focus on your desire and how to reduce or eliminate it. Because once you do that, you lose the struggle. That is the beautiful thing. There will be no resistance needed because there will be no battle. There will be no holding yourself back because you won't want the alcohol anymore. Right? This is for me where the peace and feeling of freedom comes from getting out of the mind loop of thinking, how am I going to get a glass of wine? How am I going to resist that? How am I going to survive not drinking tonight? All of that goes away. I'm going to end this episode with why it can feel liberating to free yourself from this resistance battle. It's another way of being kinder to yourself and deciding to back yourself no matter what. A large part of the reason why I personally felt such a failure around alcohol was because I'd failed so much to resist in the past. I was actually making what I was doing to try and solve the problem I had, another reason to feel bad, if you like. I mean, on the face of it, it seemed like such a stupid thing to struggle with. This was my reasoning, right? To be still struggling with the alcohol when I was able to do so many other much harder things in my life. So no wonder that every time I decided I was going to finally change my drinking, I felt doomed to fail. I doubted myself, so I wasn't acting in a strong, capable way. Instead, I felt powerless and demoralized and thought I'll inevitably give in and I'll just have to live with the negative consequences, much as I didn't fancy that. So in the end, I stopped believing that I was ever going to be able to resist. I kind of sort of knew that before long, I'd be right back where I started. And that, my friend, was very, very demoralizing. But what I learned was that when you let go of resistance, you let go of the story, that you find the wine or whatever your drink is irresistible, right? And that's a wonderful thing. Another great reason to try this. And before I go, there's another type of resistance I really want to speak to here. It's the resistance of getting help to end the drinking struggle. It stems from a belief that as a highly accomplished and capable person, you feel you should be able to figure this out. I stayed stuck in that for so long. I just want to ask, what would life be like if you could drop that resistance to getting help? If you could just park it out of the way for a moment, let's just set it on a side table. And then we're going to ask, what would you be willing to do to end this struggle with drinking for once and for all? You'd likely be taking action. You'd be seeking an expert. You'd be moving towards a solution instead of putting up with what you currently have. And the great news is that you don't need to figure this out by yourself. I've done that work already multiple times. I can help you to deploy this in a way that makes sense for your life. Listen, I'm going to give you this straight. If you want something you've never had before, such as freedom around alcohol, you're going to need to do something you've never done before. I can make that far easier for you. I can have you changing your whole outlook on alcohol in short order. All you have to do is to go to bat for yourself and show up to do the work. I'm there with you doing my piece of this. And being able to do this comes from dropping resistance at the idea of accepting help. It's as simple as that. And when you're ready to do that, I'm here. Go to 90dayslater.co and get time on my calendar by clicking on the book a call button at the very top of the screen. If you don't find a time that works, email me on anna@90dayslater.co. And if you think you might be ready, but you're not completely sure, don't be scared. Let's still talk. I offer a 100% judgment-free space. I'll listen to what you have to say. So we can see if we're a good fit. I'll build a plan to get you to your goals. Just think about it. You could be rocking and rolling in your life without having to think about wine any more than you choose to. I look forward to talking with you and celebrating how you go on to transform your relationship with alcohol in a way that works for you. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week. If you like what you're learning in the podcast and you want to take the work further and achieve total freedom around alcohol, let's talk. I help my clients stop reaching for that first glass of wine the moment 6 p.m. rolls around, and they don't miss out on life. Email me for more information on anna@90dayslater.co. And if you did enjoy the show, I'd really appreciate if you'd leave a rating and review to help others find the 90 Days Later podcast.